that's the whole attraction, is that it seems like a permanent fixture, but it could go into a small space really quickly.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God. Yeah.
Restaurants eat it up.
Yeah. See, for me, I have I've come to own so much equipment that it usually takes me about an hour, because I have to do like lights and all that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I like to do it because it's just, I don't know, it's like I said, it's like a passion, so it's fun for me to do it. But at the end, I'm like, oh.
Oh, and that effort does pay off.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you have to set yourself apart somehow. If you want to be marketable, and I don't like to spend too much on that, because you really, it's a double-edged sword, because you want it to be marketable, you want it to be branded, but you want it to to be real.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
You don't want it to be fake either.
And dry.
Right.
You don't want it to be like that one guy that everyone sees play that one Freebird song,
Yeah.
Because over and over again or something like that. Yeah, you try to be unique, and you've adapted that, I'm sure, with your shows. And you use pedals now too.
I have one pedal that I use, which is a 3-button pedal. It does instrument effects, it does vocal harmonizing, and then it does looper.
Is it the Boss?
I should know.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's an acoustic performer. It might be Boss that makes it. I think
is it like beige looking?
That's the one.
Yeah, with shiny silver like buttons.
You can get it right at Strings and Things here in town.
Yep. I just got the Boss GT1. It's a beaut. Beaut. Oh my Lord, it's great. It's great. Well, we are live. I just totally realized that.
Hi.
Hi everyone. How's it going? It's great to be here. It's another day. It's been kind of gloomy out, but hopefully, honestly, the rain's been pretty nice. We needed it. Mm-hmm. So I know the plants outside that Christina has are loving it. She decided to go grow corn.
Wow.
I kind of knew what was coming. I was like, hey, you should, go for it. And now, do you see that long plant right there?
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, she's taking it down. She's so insecure about it. She's like, it keeps growing. I'm like, yeah, it's corn. It's going to go huge.
I've never seen patio, balcony corn.
Corn, me neither.
That's awesome.
Me neither, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll be like little miniature corns. Who knows? But today I have Jim Tyrell. He's a local musician, piano man, singer, songwriter. He really does it all. Open mics, plays at churches. He's a versatile musician. I've known him for a while. When I went to Plymouth, when I went to college, he used to play at the bars and in the restaurants that were there, whether it was doing open mics or just jamming out. And me and my friends, we did look up to you. We thought you were awesome, and I still do. I do appreciate what you do and everything. And I just want to give you a moment to talk about what you do. Kind of explain.
Oh well, like you said, I'm one of the guys lurking in the corner at these bars and restaurants, playing solo shows or playing with a band every now and then, or hosting an open mic. Yeah. Or more recently doing the dueling piano thing,
Yes,
playing
I've noticed that you do that, yeah.
Another musician on stage. But I've been at it, boy, I probably played my first show back in 1987 or so, right out of high school.
That's awesome.
And then since 2010, I've pretty much been doing this as my full-time economic pursuit. I'm just a working schlub out there playing shows.
Just going at it one day at another. That's what we all got to do. That's what us musicians do. The grind. The grind is real,
And it's easy in that grind to stop being creative.
It's very true.
I do write my own stuff too, but it doesn't get played nearly as much at the shows because I try to get a lot of audience requests and stuff.
Feedback and
people are more familiar with Tom Petty than with me. So,
that's true.
So that's what they ask for.
Do you ever find that people ask you for your originals? Do you ever get requests like, hey, let me hear your originals?
It does happen now and then, and that's obviously a nice thing,
It is. It's really nice. It's happened to me a few times.
Yeah. That's and I could put more work into it if I was more dedicated to playing 50% originals at my shows or something. Holly Furlone is great for that because she doesn't have a huge repertoire of covers, so she's just like, you're going to get songs that I wrote. Yep. And she's really good, and it's paying off. People know the stuff. They go looking for her because nobody sounds like her.
She has that unique sound, that style. Yeah, a lot of musicians, they struggle with that. I found that when I was first starting off, I like before I worked with Not So Costly Productions, I had nothing but originals. And when I
Right.
got that job, he was like, you got to do a bunch of covers. And I stayed up all night long learning Tom Petty to Foo Fighters to, oh my God, you name it, just every kind of artist that I could. And then I got an arsenal eventually of just songs, a repertoire. And
I seem to remember back in the days of the open mics, and maybe this was kind of early in your cover efforts, I remember you doing a pretty spirited version of Folsom Prison Blues.
I still do that.
You do that?
I still do that.
Good.
I mash it up with Johnny B. Good.
Yep.
I also do that song. Anyway, I just mash it up with a bunch of songs. Yeah, it's crazy. I still do that. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, that was a good piece.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, you say you were young and going to these open mics and looking up to us, but you know, we were looking at this talent that we hadn't seen yet, going, wow, this is a really rich area for talented musicians, because I haven't heard of this guy, but here he comes in and clearly he's got a very polished thing going on.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Wow.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
You
Thank
hit the ground running, dude.
Yeah, dude. Like I was telling you beforehand. I mean, I just started with this really high energy, and I still have that, you know. And that's wow. Those are really nice words. Thank you. I appreciate that. But kind of going side off of the music, because we're talking about this. What was the inspiration towards you becoming a musician? What was it that made you realize, like, this is what I want to do? Yeah, talk about that.
Well, I guess the first time I really thought about being an active participant in music was around 4th or 5th grade, when we were doing some school concert or something. And a kid that I knew at the time, we became great friends. My friend Justin did a solo, and I had no idea that this was happening. Just the lights went down, and he was by himself on stage, and I think he did a song from the show Oliver or something.
Oliver.
And
Where is
that
love?
Was the one.
Was it really?
That was the one. In
Are
fact.
you serious?
It was Where's Love? And it blew me away, and he killed it, and
No way.
the audience loved it, and I was like, that's something I really want to do. But it wasn't the audience response that made me want to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it in spite of the audience response. You know, I was just like, that
awe.
looks like a really satisfying thing to do. So I just went in and talked to the teacher the next day and said, you know, I want to do that. And she said, well, we'll pick out something for the next concert. And
That's awesome.
worked on a thing, and it just went from there.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, you know, at that time I was listening to the stuff that was on the radio, of course, you know, growing up. Like, I think I told my parents in 1980 that all I wanted for Christmas was the Foreigner 4 record.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The one with Urgent on it.
That's awesome.
Jukebox Hero. I was like,
Yeah.
you know, don't give me anything else. I gotta have this.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's great. Who were like the musicians that stuck out to you back in when you were growing up?
Well, Billy Joel was an early one.
Billy Joel.
For sure.
Oh, for sure. Oh, you, Emily. Yeah.
Because I you know, took to the piano, and again, that was a school effort. We didn't have a piano at home. I eventually got a keyboard that I would lug around.
Really? That's awesome.
And you know, you're the kid with the keyboard. People put you on the spot. They're like, play Jump. You know, play a little synthesizer thing. But you know, I listened to a lot of Billy Joel. But a lot of it was, you know, we were talking before the show about the eclectic CD shelves.
Yes.
And stuff like that, and they really are a cross section of the age. You know,
Yes.
I was probably listening to Prince and Corey Hart and Herbie Hancock and Duran Duran.
Yes. Yeah, I listened to that. My dad had Purple Rain,
Yeah,
the CD. Boom, right there. I remember listening to that stuff, and I was like, this guy's awesome. That guy was legendary. Yeah, he had everything, and it's crazy.
and then, you know, Kiss and Motley Crue, because you know it's rural New Hampshire. You're gonna hear
Motley
the hair
Crue.
metal
Oh
bands.
yeah.
So
Oh, for sure. Aerosmith.
they came in hard and heavy.
Yeah.
So I would listen to this stuff, and then the Billy Joel, and my parents' music was actually pretty influential, even though they weren't really overt about it. They did have a record collection, and it had some country like Kenny Rogers.
Oh, Kenny Rogers, God rest his soul. I mean, oh yeah.
Yeah, and Anne Murray, and so some songwriters that I really came to respect. Although I think Anne mostly did stuff that other people wrote. but they also had like the Limelighters, and there were some comedy records in there too.
Wow.
Like Cosby and George
that's
Carlin.
Great. Yeah. George Carlin, I
were
love
really
that.
influential.
Yeah, George Carlin is an amazing comedian. Yeah. Wow, records of him. That's awesome.
Yeah, my mom's sister, my aunt, when we would go down as kids to spend time in the summer, she had a killer collection of George Carlin records.
That's
so
awesome.
We would listen to those.
That's great.
Probably weren't supposed to. And the early Steve Martin records too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Steve Martin's a really good comedian. Funny guy, too. Funny actor. Mm-hmm. Just overall good guy.
Hell of a banjo player.
I was going to say, yeah, he is a banjo player. Yeah, he played on a Tiny Desk, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, Tiny Desk performances.
Did a couple of records with Edie Brickell.
Yep. It's amazing. Yeah, and I just figured out that Russell Crowe also plays guitar.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has quite the guitar collection. He does a lot of Johnny Cash.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I just discovered that this morning. Yeah.
Oh, I posted a video that has been around for a little bit, but I just found it, of Rick Astley covering Everlong by the Foo Fighters.
I think I saw that.
He
it was
killed
on a
it.
Sirius radio.
I'm not sure what the origin was, but he did a great job with it.
Rick Astley, he can cover some. What was the song that I saw him cover? It was I'll be riding shotgun under. It was actually though really good because he made it kind of like with Rick Astley's voice, it fit perfectly, and I was like, wow.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look for that.
Yeah,
I might be a fan now.
Yeah,
What happened?
it's actually pretty good. I give credit for them. I love it when I see musicians cover other musicians and stuff like that. Like my favorite is when I was just watching Slash and Angus Young. They were kind of doing a tribute to Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. And just to see Angus Young like shredding it on a Guns N' Roses song, I was like, yeah, this
that's
is
pretty
awesome.
fun.
I love seeing that stuff.
Because AC/DC has a very specific musical language.
Yes.
I've never heard those guys stray from that.
And no, and it's funny because when he was shredding it, it was Angus Young. You know what I mean? That signature sound on a Guns N' Roses kind of performance, and I was like, wow, this actually works pretty well.
That's neat.
Yeah. Now, talking about performances, I like you said, you do a lot of open mics. When did you start doing stuff like that? Like, and how did you, as a musician, adapt to doing that? Because that's not something many of us can do. It's to host it.
As far as hosting the open mics, I don't even remember how I fell into that. It was probably as a fill-in here and there for the people that I would go to open mics. And then, if a guy like Bob King or one of the locals couldn't make it, he'd be like, Jim, can you just go up there and run the PA?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But the Country Cow, which is now the Covered Bridge Farm Table, is one where I've
Great
hosted
place.
for, I don't know, over a decade now.
Right, yeah, wow, yeah.
It's been a pretty good run.
Yeah.
And, we've got a nice group of regular musicians up there who come out pretty faithfully, and that's a lot to ask, to go out and play for free and be expected to buy dinner.
Yeah.
And
Especially during these times.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's tough.
But they do it, and they love what they do, and you really got to respect that. You got to make sure that those musicians feel respected.
Oh, yeah.
They're giving you
Raw
their
material.
music,
Raw.
and more than that, they're really paying to be there.
Yeah.
You gotta treat those guys right.
Yeah. No, I give, that's why I love going to those. It's been a while since I've gone because it's just with everything, I just been so busy booking and doing crazy, like, you know what I mean? And, but whenever I go to them, they're a lot of fun because sometimes when you're doing the gigs and you're becoming that performer, especially for me, because I'm a one-man band, I don't really get to talk to many people about like other musicians.
Right.
So to go to those, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not alone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, it feels good. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, and I don't know. Like, you're right. You give a lot of credit to those guys because they're just great people and they give their whole everything to the whole performance and the whole night. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that you can allowed to give that to them, as a host.
Right. Yeah. There's a real feeling of gratitude that comes out of hosting those things.
Yeah.
Because people are, and they're on the same path, the same journey that you're on, to do what they're doing. They're finding their way.
It's the next generation of artists.
And there's no established. There's no one handbook for it or anything. It's a lot of word of mouth. It's a lot of just self discovery. It's a journey that can be a very solitary one, but very relatable.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So it's a neat thing to see other people go through it and maybe struggle in some of the same ways that you're struggling with it or whatever. I'm always looking for different musical perspectives.
Oh yeah. And just the way I've always looked at it is like when I was growing up, and I mean, well, I still am, but like when I was younger and I was really starting off as a musician, is I didn't have the PA, I didn't have the equipment, so I would go to those and like try to use that as exposure and like rehearsal, because like I just wasn't able to do it at that time. And eventually, because I kept doing it, I would go to so many. Like I remember before I had gigs, I just had weeks of just, all right, Monday I'm going to this open mic, Tuesday I'm going to this open mic, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and eventually my name just got out and it spread around, and then that's when I started getting booked myself, and I'm like, all right, it worked.
Yeah, I basically went through the same thing.
Yeah.
Try to find rooms to play.
Exactly.
And,
get your name out there.
Eventually somebody needs you for a night, and then you're off.
I used to do nursing homes all the time.
Oh yeah.
That was like one of my things I used to do, because I loved playing and giving back to the community, but at the same time, those people would always book me. You know what I mean? And
right.
It wasn't, I don't even think they paid me, like, because it was just like to go in there, but it was like good exposure, and it was just, like rehearse practice, and it would, at the same time you're doing something really nice for those people, and it was really nice. And
oh yeah, that pays dividends.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's a great way to kind of lose a little bit of that amateur rattle, just get in front of people and play, and learn the feel of the sequence of it.
Oh yeah.
And the arc of the show and all of those things.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a great thing to do for them as well. It's always wonderful. I've got a facility in Franklin, the Golden Crest. I play for them once a month, and it's been a few months because they can't let anity in there now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So yeah. I miss those guys. I'm dying to get back down.
Yeah,
there.
I'm sure. Yeah, and that's another thing I want to talk to you about was your versatility is like you also do church stuff. I mean, you also play for churches, and how did that come about?
Somebody in the community, one of the local churches lost their organist, and they got word to somebody. They were just asking if they knew any piano players or anybody who could do it. And I hadn't played much church organ at all.
That's an awesome instrument.
I play piano, and I went in and told them that. And it was a situation where they just simply couldn't find anybody else. And they're like, whatever you can do,
just do it.
Is fine.
Wow.
And when I went in, I wasn't the full-time organist. I was just substituting for the organist that was going to be going away for the winter.
Okay.
And it turns out that this organist was one of the music teachers from when I was in high school.
No way.
So she knew all about me. She's like, wow. I can't even believe you're letting this guy in a church. The things that I put them through.
Oh, no.
But mostly what I was doing was hiding in the music room when I was supposed to be in English or history.
Yeah.
I was just sloughing off and trying to teach myself.
I was similar myself in high school and stuff like that. Music room was my sacred place, sacred ground. Yeah.
But I just kind of fell into the church thing, and it's been very good. Obviously, they're great people.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I've been able to do consistently during this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah.
Is play online for them every week.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure, and that's a very great thing for musicians to have. When I first started out, I did a good handful of church gigs myself, whether it's filling in for a tenor or whatever I could do.
Sure.
And not only was it just a good paying gig, it was just like, wow, the practice I got and you learn from it. And to be able to do that, it's not a skill that many people can do. And not many people think about it, but the organ, man, that's a great instrument, man. I love an organ. That's a lot of fun.
And I don't do the instrument justice at all. They've got a nice Hammond in there. It's not a B3, but it's got the full drawbars and everything. And the first thing I did was find the 2 drawbars that turn off the foot pedals.
Okay, because, so you don't use the foot pedals.
During the first sermon, I accidentally leaned on one. It was like, bah, I was like, I can't do anything positive with these things. They've got to get shut off.
Oh, I'm
so
sure
I
that
just
probably
do
scared some
left
people.
and right hand on the lower and upper decks.
Right, yeah.
And that's it.
Now, what is it like to play church organs kind of music? Like, are you playing left hand, the bass? Like, how does that work?
I take a lot of liberties with the music as it's written in the hymnals.
Okay.
Usually what they would do at first, they would send me the list of 4 or 5 songs they wanted me to play. And I would sit at home and do my homework. I would read the dots and be like, okay, this is a G minor. And then I'd be able to play the G down here on the left hand and comp a minor chord up here.
Yep.
And then just kind of make my own arrangement that kept the melody at the top of the chords.
Oh, so that's what, okay.
And by that method, I was able to give them something that they could sing to. Fortunately for their purposes, it doesn't need to be exact.
Yeah.
It just needs to match something that the people who don't know the hymns can follow and that the people that do know the hymns can recognize.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's actually really interesting to know, because I've never really looked at organ or sheet music for organs and hymns. I only know the vocal, the lines and everything. So that's something I've always wanted to know. And have you ever used bass pedals at all? A little bit. Yeah.
I was fooling around with them at one point.
That's hard, man.
With the aforementioned Folsom Prison Blues, actually, I went in early and I brought my guitar. Oh. And I turned the pedals on.
Trying to watch
just doing the 1-5 thing while I'm trying to play Johnny Cash. Cool. And if I worked on it for a while, I could probably get it.
That's awesome.
They don't have much use for Johnny Cash at the church, but there is a Hank Williams tune in the hymnal that they like.
Well, I've seen some churches, they've been adapting more of like a modern kind of play to music. Like I've seen some churches use bands, and I mean some even use like synths and Ableton, and like they have all the MIDI boards and everything.
A lot of Roland V kits, like electronic drum sets and stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've had people offer me to do work like that, and I'd never said yes, just because like I feel like honestly I would get sucked into that. You know what I mean? Because it looks like a lot of fun. With the whole band and everything, I feel like I just get really lost in that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Sure.
Being on stage with a bunch of musicians,
I think it's good to have it as a piece of what you're doing. It's informing my songwriting. It's informing the way that I play in some interesting ways. I think, guys like Elton John certainly look back at their experiences with church music and how it kind of shaped their chord forms and their understandings and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, you learned piano first, so that when you started playing guitar, was that kind of an easier thing to pick up because it made more sense music
probably theory-wise? I knew what an A minor was, so I knew why I was making that pattern. But it was a real desperation move for me because it was tough to get a gig around here with a keyboard under your arm. If you had a guitar, people were just like, okay, they're going to give my patrons something that they recognize. This will be fine. And my repertoire was pretty limited on the piano as well, but I think a limited guitar repertoire is still easier to market.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Being able to play guitar and piano, that's a great thing to have for your shows. Now it's nice to switch back and forth, although I rarely do it now. I'm so much happier playing the piano. You're a very good piano player, dude. You kill it on the piano.
I appreciate that. I'm self-taught, so I'm there's still I'm learning every time I play still.
And you also played the melodica.
Yeah,
you shred on that too.
I got a melodica, which is I got it as a gimmick kind of.
Yeah.
It plays well at the dueling piano shows because you can play the harmonica line for Piano Man while the other guy is playing the piano.
Oh, yeah.
It looks good, and you can stand up and play the solo or the synth line from the Final Countdown by Europe and just
Toto.
Goofy stuff.
Or Toto by Africa.
Yes.
Or Africa by Toto. But man, you're really good on that. I mean, and even a bunch of musicians use them, like Stevie Wonder, Billy Joel.
Donald Fagen.
Yeah.
Steely Dan.
Yep. So many musicians use them, and
whoever the guy was from the Hooters in the 80s, because it became known as the Hooter harmonica for a little while.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But that's an interesting fact. Now you know. Fun fact of the day. I love that stuff. So talking about kind of like who you looked up to now when it came to writing your own music, when, like this is going to be, I'm sure, a big question for you, but when was the first time you wrote your own song?
Oh gosh, I started writing stuff in high school, and you can imagine how embarrassing that stuff was.
Oh,
anybody's first writings.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff I write now is embarrassing, but then I was batting 1,000.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, are these live Facebook comments?
Yes.
Because somebody said that they're proud of you. I assume it's you. Maybe it's us.
That's my.
When we don't use bad language.
That's my uncle.
And I almost did. I almost actually dropped a bomb there, and I thought, I don't know if that's a thing that we do here.
Something I'm known for is dropping the bomb a few times. And
well,
so I've been trying
Mr. Hickey,
not to.
it's probably going to happen sooner or later. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. I've noticed sometimes with my previous guests, like with my buddies, it happens with. There was a guy I had, Brendan. Him and I ended up just having a few beers at 11 o'clock, which probably wasn't the best idea. And then it just turned into many beers. And then after many beers, you're like a drunken sailor at that point. You know, the amount of bombs you're dropping. It wasn't good.
It's midday Tuesday here, but I'll come back for one of those shows.
Yeah, no,
too.
for sure.
We'll get right into it.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, man.
But yeah, I wrote a bunch of crappy songs in high school, but there was like the worst song that you write, the worst song that you can write is going to have something in it that you're going to take forward. It's just part of the process. There's value in all of it. So, you know, I was just kind of putting those building blocks down. For sure. None of that stuff really has survived. The earliest song that I wrote that I think is in any form of recording is from 2004 or 2003 or something like that.
Oh, really? Wow. Now, do you ever look back at your songs and like, oh, I wish I did this, maybe done that, maybe try to revamp them a little bit?
Almost immediately after they're put in any sort of permanent physical form, I start going, yeah, I could have done this.
Yep. Could have done this a little bit better.
But that's it, and I bet that's not just the province of musicians. I bet anybody,
everyone does it. I do it myself
with a paintbrush or whatever. It's tough to step away and say it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's happened with me when I wrote my first EP. Right when I was done with it, I think after it was like written and put out there, I added another part to the song, and it actually works way. I wish I'd put it on there, you know. And my producer was like, "Why did you do that?" Like, there you go, adding stuff, and I couldn't help it, man. But that's an interesting thing because I wanted to ask you that. I feel like myself, I do that. I look at songs and I kind of revamp them a little bit, try to bring them back alive, and see if it sticks.
I like that. I like the fact that a song can evolve. You know, it harkens back to the like folk music concepts and stuff like that, where there will be verses that will be written because of different situations or societal things, and songs kind of change and grow as they live their lives.
They do, yeah. I always find it interesting that back then, like if you really look back in the music history, that's what it was used for, was folklore, and was talking about war history, anything. And I mean, I'm watching this show right now called The Avatar. I'm rewatching it because I loved it when I was growing up, and in it, and there's a lot of that.
The cartoon,
the
Last Airbender.
Yeah,
guy?
The Last Airbender.
I know who you're talking about at least.
Yeah. So I've been rewatching because it's on Netflix. I'm like, why not? So I've been rewatching it, and they kind of throw that in there with the folklore and the musicians, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy to think about that nowadays. I mean, how it's evolved so much, and it's more idolized than back then. It was, you're doing it for nothing. You're usually a traveler, a gypsy almost. I was just walking around, just kind of making your way, living your life. It's kind of like interesting things to think about.
Well, yeah, those are the stepping stones that got us to the commodity-based music
exactly
of the day.
Yeah,
you know, but it doesn't seem to be as far as my view anyway, there isn't as much socially driven stuff going on. Where are the protest songs that we should be having right now?
That's true.
There's a few.
There's
true. Some people doing it, but there's not nearly what you heard in the 60s.
I think.
And there's easily as much reason for it.
And that's something I think that you and I could talk about, and I wanted, and it's a great way to kind of get into that, is how music has evolved over the years, because like you said, you started playing music when in the 80s and you started going live. So I mean, I'm sure you've seen how the scenes of music, especially on the East Coast, has changed over the years and how people have adapted towards that, you know?
Yeah. The scenes have changed, but I've also changed as an observer over that time too. So it's kind of tough. But in the late 80s, there was a really nice moment here in Plymouth, New Hampshire.
Yep.
Where there were a lot of bands there was a lot of nice variety, a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And then slightly after that, or at the same time, was blossoming this amazing Seacoast thing that was going on. There's a great documentary about it called "In Danger of Being Discovered."
Okay.
And if I have a copy of it at home, I'll make sure that I send it over to you.
That's interesting.
And it's great. It's about all these bands like Heavens to Murgatroyd and Fly Spinach Fly and Thanks to Gravity.
What was that one?
Fly Spinach Fly.
Fly Spinach Fly.
I think they were on MTV at one point. They were doing like some summer beach thing.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And I think they were featured on there. And Groove Child was a fantastic band that had a recent sort of resurgence.
Wow.
And I actually started to investigate all of this stuff with the idea of putting together a New Hampshire-based internet radio station. Just digging out all the New Hampshire music relics I could find.
Oh, yeah.
And just making an internet playlist for it. Because there's a lot of talent up here, and it's been like that for a long time.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. I know. I was just looking at the comments. I just realized there was a bunch of comments going on.
Oh, hello, internet.
And someone's requested Only Human by Jonas Brothers.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of that, requests.
Yeah. That's my albatross.
Oh my God, you get a
my
bunch.
neck.
Yeah.
I'm getting requests for just sitting here.
Oh wow, that's a weird. The irony in that, as we were talking about that earlier, is how you get requests.
Well, yeah. I mean, the dueling piano thing was the big culmination of that. But before I started playing dueling pianos, I really would try to encourage song requests from the crowd and just try to fake my way through or figure out how to play a verse of anything.
That song, yeah. Yep.
And it's fun to be on that tightrope for a little while. And then having done that for a few years, I answered an ad on Craigslist back when Craigslist could be used for real things.
Yeah.
Because there was somebody who had a dueling piano gig lined up and they didn't have a second player.
Oh.
So I sent them my song list and I said, I take a lot of requests. This is the stuff that I play. And much like that church gig I got, he didn't have anybody else. So he had to go with it.
Oh, no way.
So he's like, just come up here and do your best. Also try to learn these 10 songs because someone's going to ask for them.
Okay.
I was like, well, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, that seems weird. But of course, anytime you play dueling pianos, someone asks for it.
Really? That's funny.
There are a few ringers. Piano Man, someone's going to ask for.
Oh, yeah.
Brown Eyed Girl, anybody with any instrument is going to get asked to play Brown Eyed Girl at some point.
Oh, my God.
And I don't hate these songs the way that a lot of people will or say that they will if they're a working musician.
It is funny, though.
I don't go out of my way to do these songs, but that's partly because they're a little bit overplayed and partly because if I wait to get asked for it, I'll get paid for it. That's
super true. I always do the joke, like, if you want to hear Freebird, $20.
Right.
Stuff like that. And, it's usually, believe it or not, stuff like that can end up working, like I've had guys, like, I'm sure you've had people that come up to you and you're like, hey, I'll give you $20 to play this song. I don't care. I just want to hear it. And you're like, sure, dude.
Yep.
I'll play it. I don't care.
I mean, that is the very nature of dueling pianos.
Yeah, exactly. For you guys, how did that come about? I mean, you just explained about the dueling pianos and how you got that. I mean,
yeah, that's how I entered into it. But then, I did a few of these things, and then I had a good friend, local musician, John Lawrence, who wanted to put together.
Musician,
you know John?
Yep.
Well, we wanted to put together a local troupe of dueling piano players, so we kind of started Dueling Pianos of New Hampshire, and found some rooms to take our act into. But of the 4 primary players, I was the only one who actually had any experience playing dueling pianos. These guys just kind of got the idea and were willing to learn.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, they've come into it, and they're good players in their own right now. It's fun to play those shows, but this pandemic has put the clamp right on all of that.
Oh yeah, and that's it's happened with everyone, even businesses, musicians, anyone can relate to that. It's been tough.
Yeah, and even as these things start to come back alive, it's tough to do anything as expectedly interactive as a dueling piano show. We're going to do one in mid-July down at the Tupelo in Derry.
Yeah. Oh, good for you guys.
But it's going to be on their outdoor stage, and we're going to be playing to people in their cars.
Like a drive-in.
Yeah, like a drive-in. I don't know how we're going to handle song requests yet. Maybe there's going to be a chat line, kind of like what's going on here.
Yeah.
If I don't know if people are trying to Venmo us tips.
That's interesting.
We're figuring out the logistics, but we really want to get back on the stage. We want to play. So
now when I see pictures of it, because I played at Murphy's Tap Room in Bedford, and I saw posters of you guys playing there. It looks like you guys adapted like kind of like a comedy kind of atmosphere to it.
Well, there's another group, another organization that does stuff through a comedy club organization, and Dueling Pianos has always had a foot in the comedy camp. And it's very high energy. There's a lot of joking around and stuff like that. Again, that's something that I try to be careful about, because you want it to be polished, but you don't want it not to be real.
Like not too mimicky or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it feels too rehearsed, then you miss out on the actual spontaneity that is dueling pianos. That's important to preserve.
Yeah.
A lot of the dedicated rooms like Howl at the Moon, they kind of go a little too far in that direction, where they almost become song lists, where they know that they're going to play stuff that gets requested a lot. They're hitting those greatest hits whether or not people are asking for them. And I like it when it's much more outlaw. The danger there is that you've got a room of 450 people in a room like the Tupelo, and somebody asks for some obscure B-side Queen song, and they've put $20 down next to it, and you're like, I got to get through it. I got to do this. Guys, here's a learning lesson for everybody. This is a weird tune, and we're just gonna play it.
Oh wow.
But if you pepper those in between I Will Survive and Hey Yeah by Outkast, then you're gonna be fine.
Yeah. I've learned. When I started doing shows, I actually did a bunch of research. I would search up like top hits you hear at bars. What do DJs play at bars and stuff like that. And that's how I started learning like Come On Eileen.
Do you have the range for that one?
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I can sing Somebody to Love. And I've done that a few times in the show just with my acoustic guitar, not even like to the key. And it's always when I've had like at least 2 to 3 Coronas in me.
Yep.
That's the key. And once I can do that, it's like solid, but I can't do it any other time. And but I've learned like there's songs that you play and learn as a musician that everyone is just going to get down to, and they just like that's what they want to hear, like Santeria. It breaks my heart, and like what I got or whatever by Sublime, those songs, everyone loves them, and that's always like the common request and everything.
Oh yeah, and it's so important to have those things if you're doing what you do for a living.
Yeah,
you have to be able to accommodate that, but it's not necessarily a satisfying thing to do just that, and that's an easy thing to slip into.
Make it your own in a way. Is that what you're trying to say?
Right.
Have you done that with? No, I have. I've heard you make things your own, but how do you go about making a cover your own?
I try to find ways to break the form. Kind of like what you're doing with Folsom. Like, I took the guitar part for the verse of Crash Into Me.
Dave Matthews?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I sing the lyric to Call Me Maybe over it.
That's genius.
The live mashup
great.
thing is a great way to
get people's attention.
Yeah, it shatters the expectations, but it also gives it to them in that familiar way.
Yeah, I've been doing recently. I'll do No Diggity, and then I mash it up. But right before I kind of solo, and then right before I get into it, I do Grease is the word. I drop the loop. And I do Grease is the word. Yeah. And I go right into it and I sing that song.
Who's that, Frankie Valli?
Yeah, I love Frankie Valli, man. Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. I love Jersey Boys.
We went
when I was growing up.
Holly and I went on a cruise back when it was safe to do that.
Yeah, I know, right?
This was about a year and a half ago or something. And that was one of the entertainment things. They had a Frankie Valli impersonator doing a show on stage. It was just this one guy singing to backtracks, but he was digging right in.
Was he killing it?
He was pretty good.
That's pretty. Yeah, he has a very hard range.
But we also had the unlimited drinks package. So he might have been terrible.
Yeah, I went to Mexico before all this happened, and when it was safe to go, it was last year, and that was my first all-inclusive resort. And man, that's when I also discovered the power of pina coladas.
Oh, that's a fine drink.
Oh my God, yeah. I was there in the pool, 8 o'clock in the morning. I just gave the bartender a $10 bill and I said, "You'll remember me." It was a great time. I love that stuff. Yeah. And the entertainment is great. I love cruises. Cruises are fun.
I actually had an offer on the table at one point to do 8 weeks on a cruise ship playing piano.
That's a good gig.
Yeah, it would have been great. My kids were very young at the time, and I couldn't justify going away for 2 months.
Yeah.
But they were going to put me in the Irish pub, and I was going to play drinking songs.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it sounded pretty sweet.
Yeah.
The numbers looked like they worked okay, but it just was the wrong time.
Yeah, people have thought, like, came up to me and like, "You ever thought about going on a cruise ship?" And I'm like, I totally would, but I've seen Poseidon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know, man. I like cruise ships. I like just go on them for a couple days and play it safe.
Right.
Who knows? But it is a good gig though. It is a good gig if you can land it, and it'd probably be a lot of fun too.
I think so. We'll have to see what that turns into. Industry is turned on its head.
Same. Yeah, I was thinking about this with resorts too. I'm sure after all this, there's going to be a big hit with a lot of things that we weren't expecting to be hit. But I think it's going to be eye-opening. I mean, even I was driving on 202 West, driving towards Somersworth. Just driving on that, I saw businesses that I knew that now say like closed. And it breaks my heart. I'm like, dang, dude. We're just going to start seeing this everywhere. So support your local businesses.
Right.
Support your local businesses and support your local musicians. There's 6 feet. You know what I start doing? I do Get Back, and I do 6 feet back. 6 feet back, 6 feet back, and don't forget your mask.
That's funny.
Yeah, people eat that up. Yeah, but I think this is a great time to take a little break. I think we're live now for 45 minutes. I think it says.
Dang, Gina.
Yeah, like I said, it goes by quick.
Yeah.
So I think we'll take a quick break, and we'll get back to you. And I definitely want to talk to you more about music and stuff like that. And stay tuned for us, and feel free to leave those comments. I see some people are watching, and that's great. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. Well, I'm bored as shit, got nothing to do during this quarantine time. So I might as well make a video or post something on YouTube. So it's my podcast. Cool. here. And we are back.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that. I hope everyone's enjoying the talk and enjoying the show so far. We just took a little intermission. Now we're back with Jim Tyrell, who's a local musician, singer-songwriter, piano man. You guys know the drill. Jim, we're talking about how you were in some past bands before this, which I think is kind of cool to talk about because you guys, I know Jeff pretty well and I know you pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
This was, what was the band you were in?
Rhythm Method was the name of the band. It was Jeff Gandolfi and Lex Buzzle and Brock Howe playing drums. And we were all over the map. They really were a jam band, but Jeff, as you know, is a very funky slap bass player.
Very slap heavy.
And I was a keyboard player listening to like Joe Jackson and Steely Dan at the time. So it was a weird mix, but we had fun.
Yeah. And where did you guys play a lot of your shows at?
Mostly local Plymouth stuff, except occasionally somebody would get a college party gig.
Oh.
So I think we went down to Keene once to play at some frat.
No way.
And it was fun. We're all in the van. It's like being on the road. It's like the dream.
When was this back in?
Would have been late 80s, early 90s.
That's awesome. That's cool. Did you ever do Pumpkin Fest?
No, I've been to it, but I never performed at it.
When I was growing up, I was 16. I had a good friend of mine who was already graduated. Tom, he was like 22 at the time. Him and I, he already graduated, so I'd skip school and I'd go with him to Pumpkin Fest, and we would play because he played the trash drums.
Oh yes.
And I would just jam with like a little amp and everything, and we would make like mucho for kids, and it was great because I remember coming home with a pillowcase full of ones and my mom thought I was a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, nope, definitely not, Mom. But that's crazy that you back then you with that band and played those stuff. Do you ever play at Bike Week?
Yeah, occasionally. Usually during Bike Week, I try to get gigs that aren't in Laconia. Because the bikers are going to travel. Mm-hmm. They're going to head up to the Kank. They're going to try to get the foliage or like drive in nature, I should say, because it's June. It's usually not fall. But there are plenty of other gigs to be had at these local restaurants because they can expect to be busy. But it always seems like it's either so nice out that everybody's out on their bikes and they're not going to the restaurants, or it's so bad out they're staying in Laconia, they're staying at their campsites and they're not going to the restaurants. It seems like there's always something to complain about. The expectations get a little too high. Yeah. But we keep swinging away, and there's going to be a Bike Week this year.
Is there?
Yeah, they've rescheduled it. I think it's in September.
I was gonna say probably September, August.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw something about it on Facebook a couple days ago.
I mean, that's one of New Hampshire's biggest things. I mean, I think besides seafood, the seafood festival that happens in Hampton and everything, is a pretty big thing. I mean, there's certainly many more things, but I mean, when I think of New Hampshire, one of the things I do think about is Laconia Bike Week.
Sure, of course.
I mean? My dad went to it every year.
Harley. And it's been kind of a love-hate thing, as far as the official standing on it, but they're happy for the revenue, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, did you ever go to Bike Week back then and see how it's changed now? I've heard it's completely different. I'm just saying this, but I heard back then in the 80s you saw a lot more hoo-has.
Nudity.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the word. Yeah. What a time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a little more what they say it was, but it's kind of like Fifth Avenue in New York. It's very commercialized now. It's not the crazy scene that it used to be.
Were you trying to reference the disco scene?
No, I don't think so.
The house scene.
Is it Fifth Avenue? It's wherever it is. It's that square where they do New Year's Eve.
Oh.
And it's like a big billboard now.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Or Times Square. That's what I'm thinking of.
Times Square, yeah.
It was a much different thing back in the day, and I don't know that that's necessarily. I don't know that means it was better back then, but it's not what it was. And Bike Week is like that too. It's become a little different, but the people that are riding the bikes have become a little different.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, back in the day, I took a $20 bet from somebody that I couldn't put on a skirt and walk the entire strip without anybody like tackling me. And I did it. I walked all the way down and made it back, but it was a black skirt and it was just down to the knee and it was kind of lacy.
Oh no. And
I had a black t-shirt and a leather jacket on as well. And at the time I had a mohawk. So I was able to sell it. I was able to get away with it. It almost looked like a punk kilt.
Okay.
You know, so it ended up not being a problem.
Those are things. I've seen people rock those. You know, I've been to a few Aerosmith shows where I saw a lot of people actually dress like that.
Okay.
It's a thing. Yeah. One thing I didn't want to talk to you about was Florida. You are someone that I know that actually has toured and have done your own kind of travel and played at different states. Talk about that.
Well, that tour was really, I piggybacked on an opportunity to play some dueling piano shows down in Florida. But while I was down there and on the way, I was able to book a little bit of stuff in bars. So it ended up being a 2-week trip. And like any good tour, nothing went as expected.
Oh, no.
Well, first of all, the weather didn't cooperate at all.
Something about your car, too. Wasn't there something with your car?
Well, thankfully, the car stuff didn't end up being too serious.
Okay.
I got home with the same car I left with, so that was good.
Now, how did you end up getting those gigs? Like, because that's something I wanted to do, and something that I'm sure a lot of musicians want to learn about how to do did you go down there one time and just kind of ventured out into some restaurants, or?
A little bit. I had been down to Key West before.
Yep.
And that was purely recreational. Okay. It was a great time. And so I did a little bit of research there, but really what made it happen was a dueling piano player who had come up here for the summer to play some shows, and we worked out kind of an exchange thing.
He would come up to New Hampshire, you would go down there?
That's the thing. He's back down there in the winter. If he needs a second player, then he tries to find an opportunity for me, and that's how I got those gigs, because that's pretty specific work.
Yeah.
You really, you know, for as much as I fell into it, you really kind of have to know what you're doing to do the DP stuff. So that was how it got started, and then I just kind of I looked on Facebook. I looked at all my friends, and I was like, "Who's in Florida? I'm coming down, you know, in the middle of the month. Give me some rooms to play."
Oh wow!
And a couple of things did fall together nicely.
Wow. Yeah, that's really great to think about, because I mean, when I saw that, I was like, wow, good for you. You know, like that's an amazing opportunity just to get another fan base, an audience, and also just, hey, a little vacation too. You know, I'm sure where there are ever times where you just kind of I'm just gonna go sightsee today.
Yeah, I certainly had plenty of downtime. There was a lot of opportunity to do that.
That's great.
I'm one of the last people to go to Disney before the apocalypse.
I know. We were supposed to go to Disney actually in March. Believe it or not, and it got completely canceled. So that was a big bummer.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
My oldest boy, Andy, who is 19, flew down and met me just at the end of the tour so that he could ride back with me.
Oh, that's
We spent a couple days on the road. We had a great time.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, actually, speaking of that, because I know you have kids.
I have 4 boys.
You have 4 boys. Have any of them picked up an instrument? Has that?
Yeah, I saw Andy today, and he was chunking something out on his electric guitar when I went in there. And yeah, they all play a little bit, but I don't pressure them to do it.
It's just,
you know, I came to it as a joy, and I want them to do it like that.
Oh, that's a great thing to live by. Yeah, I can't wait till one day when I'm a father. I hope one day I see my kid play an instrument. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure that's a great thing as a father to be like, yeah.
Well, it also wouldn't hurt if one of them got a real job. You know, I can't really.
There's the father of Jim coming out.
I'm doing what I do, but I don't really condone it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's funny because some people, when I'm doing my shows, people come up to me and they're like, "How do I do it? You know, how do I do to what you're doing?"
Yeah.
For me, it happened with sheer luck. Like, it really did. The way it happened for me was I was in bands in college, as you know of. I was with like Sasquatch, I think it was, and like Apartment 57, and I was in a bunch of bands. And then
you were in Apartment 57?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then Jesus and the Panty Droppers was another one.
I don't remember that one.
The name, okay, so a lot of people got offended by that name. It was because our nickname for a drummer was Jesus. So a lot of people didn't know that, so we actually had to change it. But I ended up leaving college, and I was going to stop music altogether. And when I met my girlfriend, who I'm with today, she took me to an open mic, and she just believed that I couldn't stop. She was like, nah, you can't. You have something in you. You got to do it.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
I remember you having a supporter.
Yeah,
like that.
she was really my biggest. She's the reason why I kept it up, because honestly, I was going through a big challenge in my life, and I went to an open mic in Manchester. She drove. She actually got a speeding ticket that night, which is the kicker, and it was a big one too, from a state trooper, like $300.
Hey.
She was only going like 10 over the speed limit, which he was totally kind of like overshot it, but she took me to the Wild Rover in Manchester, and I played there, and that's where Not So Cosily About Paul was. And the next day he booked me like out, and I just changed my life 360, just like in a day. Yep. So yeah, it's crazy how that happened. And has anything ever like that happened to you, where you just kind of felt like that roller coaster I was talking about?
Yeah, you kind of plug away at this thing, and then opportunities have a way of finding you eventually. Yeah. And that's a weird moment, because it feels like you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing, and all of a sudden something happens outside of your efforts, and you feel for a moment like you have momentum.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I got a call from Brooks Bartlett at the Flying Monkey in 2012 because I had been doing some local music stuff. I was doing a video series called Plymouth Spotlight.
Oh, yeah. I remember you talking about that once.
Yeah, and I was just featuring local musicians, and I was just doing it to do it, because I recognize how many of us are out there.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm doing actually right now.
Exactly. It's a lot like this. And Brooks called me and said, I like the local music thing you've got going on. We need to talk about how to bring that to the Monkey. I was like, oh, well, that's neat.
Whoa.
And the only thing that came out of that was I ended up getting an opening slot for Don McLean, the American Pie guy. Bye,
no
Miss
way.
America. Yeah, I opened up for him.
No way. That's awesome.
That was super cool. And it was also really weird, because I was standing in the wings waiting to go on, and it was the first time in a decade or more that I actually had a bout of stage fright. I was really...
Oh, yeah,
because,
I'm sure.
You're peeking out there, and it's not like a restaurant at all. It's people in seats. They're all facing you, and they're
lights,
they're not there to watch the game and eat chicken. They're there to see the show.
Yeah.
So it was a little different. Now, you kind of started like that because you were thrown on a stage very early on.
Yeah,
we were talking about.
I was, yeah. Street performing. That's
right.
always used to happen too. Like, I was notorious for it. Every time I was street performing, I'd always get on some stage. It happened in the Grog. Do you used to play the Grog? In Newburyport?
Yeah, okay, I know where you mean, but no, I've never played it.
So it happened to me a few times, and I was only 16 at the time, and I shouldn't have been there. And I hate to say this on the microphone, but I told them I was 21. It happened to me a lot. I used to do that to a lot of places. I told them I was 21 when I totally wasn't.
Yeah.
Once they found out I was, they're like, yeah, hit the road, Jack. So, yeah, that did happen to me. That's how it did.
Yeah,
so.
I made it into a couple open mics down here in Concord, in fact, before I was 21. I got in just under the wire, which is amazing, because I looked like I was under 21 when I was 30.
Yeah. That's me right now.
I don't have that problem now.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I thought the beard for me would help, but I still get ID'd. I'm like, damn it. Or the receding hairline. I'm like, damn it.
Has anyone asked you for your ID since you've had to wear a mask?
No.
Isn't that weird?
It's funny you brought that up, because me and Christina talk about that.
Yeah.
And we went to Hannaford's in Alton, and the woman, I was buying a 30 rack, and she was like, hey, ID. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's the first time I've been ID'd.
Okay.
Because I've been buying beers, smokes, whatever you name it, and I haven't been ID'd. I'm like, yo, I bet you kids are getting away with this right now. Pretty.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
there's an opportunity there, kids. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I'm just saying.
But if I was 16, I would have been jumping. I would have been getting a mask right on ASAP. Yeah, no, but that's funny you bring that up. Yeah. I do believe that. I do. I was actually talking about this with another guest, was with all the riots you're seeing happening. It's a shame with everything that's going on. But I do believe that because with quarantine that we've been trapped inside for so long, that we don't have a reason to really point a finger at what the situation is, that why we're dealing with this. So when we see a riot happening, some people jump the gun and they're like, I'm really going to take my anger out on this whole, you know what I mean? Kind of like because we just been trapped in, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's for a good reason. Everything's I don't really like the looting. I don't think that's the right thing to do. But
there's a lot of opportunity for misguided frustration.
Exactly, just due to everyone being locked in their house and everything. And it's weird to think about that, but sometimes I just get mad at my cat for some reason, you know? I'm just like, you son of a gun. Why, you know? But he's just like, hey, man, you're in my house.
I'm looking at your cat now, and it's hard to imagine that cat causing any kind of trouble.
Oh, wait. You know what it is? He has a plastic thing. It's actually a problem if you take a cat away from their mother too young. I forget what it's called.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
And it actually started with beds. He used to start with blankets, and now he graduated towards plastic. So that's the thing. We can't have any plastic out, and when he does, he wrecks the apartment. He's like all about it. Like a case of water. Like if I leave a case of water out, I can't do it because he'll just destroy it. And that's when he becomes an a-hole. You know, but he's a Maine Coon. He's a big cat, so he kind of, you know, you gotta have to be smarter than him sometimes, you know. But
well, I'm out.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a dog?
No pets.
No pets.
No. We're renting.
Same.
And the house that we're renting is a lovely house, and we're really happy there. But when we viewed it, the previous renters had a dog, and actually, when we went in to look at the house, the dog was actively doing his business in the house on one of the rugs. So we were like, that's going to have to change. So that was a stipulation from the landlords. They're like, you don't have pets, do you? And we're like, no. And they're like, thank God.
Thank God.
But we, of course, had to pull all of the rugs up and change everything.
Them. Oh, yeah.
But now, you know, the place is great and we're keeping it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But we wish that, we collectively wish that we could have a pet.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little lower on that need scale than they are, but yeah, cats are awesome.
Yeah, cats. No, everyone kind of shits on them, and I don't know why, because it really depends on I didn't like cats. I did not like cats when I was growing up. The reason why I have him is because my girlfriend, when we first had our first place, she was like, I want a cat. So we found this ad on Craigslist. It was in Maine, and we're in Plymouth at the time. We drove 2 hours to Maine, and this woman had this, like, she had a Maine Coon. Like, she had him and, like, a female, and our friend grabbed the sister, and I grabbed him. And the reason why is because we locked eyes. I'm not even kidding you. We locked eyes, and it was like we were just friends. You know, I knew right then and there, and I was like, he's mine. And I picked him up. He was on my shoulder for the entire car ride home. He was my best friend. And like Christina comes in and we're watching TV together, and he's literally sitting up on the couch watching TV with me. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
He's a good cat. So he's a good thing, but not many people can say that, you know, and so it's a hit or miss. It's like that with dogs too. Like my dad, we had a Weimaraner growing up, and it was kind of like, you know, have you ever seen like when you buy a dog, like not an adopt, but like when you actually have to buy a puppy, like from a breeder, you kind of go on a waiting list, and you put it. Usually, how it goes is you put a down payment on. Once you put the down payment on, you're stuck with that dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't know if he's gonna be a piece of shit or you know what I mean. So it's a hit or miss.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't recommend that kind of thing, because it's you really got to feel it out with that dog. And some people are different, but with this one, he was stuck with this dog, and this dog was a devil. But me and him clicked. Me and this dog were best friends, but this dog tore up my entire house. I mean, like, the walls were gone. Kids were not welcomed at the house because this dog would destroy kids.
I had a greyhound that was much like that too. We connected so well, but
beautiful dogs.
It had been a racing dog and had been abused and had a fear-biting problem. So anybody it didn't know, including kids, it was just unmanageable. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a shame. You know,
a beautiful dog.
Yeah. It's funny, you know, but I really do believe that, like, animals are so fascinating because they're really just like humans in a way, that if they've been treated a certain way after a certain age, they kind of follow in this kind of rhythm, like that this is what life is.
Yeah.
But if over time, if it's given to a good owner, I have seen dogs, just like with humans, change. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't think that. Like, I go online and like I'm trying to look for a house or an apartment right now, a new apartment, and there's so many things that say no certain breeds for dogs, and it's because of pit bulls.
Right.
And I think that's so sad because of the reputation they've been given. You know, I've seen pit bull. I've never met a vicious pit bull. I've heard of them,
Yep.
but I've never met one. They've always been the most loving animals I've ever, just like any other
Likewise.
dog. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's why I do believe like animals.
I'm sure
can change.
they're out there, but I haven't met them.
Yeah, it's out there, you know. But
kind of, you know, bringing this concept around to music, people, you know, in the business that we're in, are we offering something that people recognize, or are we offering moments of discovery, of change?
ooh,
You know, then that's what I struggle with when I think about playing my originals in front of people. You know, how do we best serve them? By giving them something they know and can latch onto,
Absolutely.
or something that they can engage in the unexpected way.
that's really good advice to give for anyone, really. I mean, for a musician, for a starting off musician, because that's something that we do struggle with. You know, you're trying to figure out, all right, do I want to take this show and create something with it, be completely different and unique, or am I going to be that background musician again? Am I just going to be doing covers? How am I going to take this?
Yeah.
And it's really your call. And I find that there's a good happy medium. You know what I mean? There's a good happy medium with that, because I've seen guys that, you know, I saw this one musician once, I'm not going to say his name, but he tried to be unique in his own way, and he would walk around and he would like go up to people as they're eating and like try to like get them involved. And you just can't do that. As much as you see those big names, they can do it because they have that reputation.
Yeah, because people went to see them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're playing at a restaurant, you know, like both of us do, you kind of have to understand that they're not going. Some people are going there for music, but the other people, a majority of people, are going there for their hot wings or for their burgers or something like that. So you have to keep that in mind and play that happy medium. And that's where, you know, that's an interesting topic to bring up. You know, how do you go about that?
Well, you know, being a request-driven musician really puts you in the service industry end of things. You really are kind of trying to play to the audience's whims, and their ideas. There's a safety to that, which is counterintuitive, because if they chose the song and it bombs, it's not really your fault.
Not really your fault. Yeah.
You know, it depends where their expectation level is, I suppose.
That's true.
But, you know, they at least share in the disaster, and that can actually be part of the fun, too.
Oh, yeah.
But then occasionally you get the most gratifying moment that we talked about earlier, where someone will be like, play something of yours.
Yep.
You know, and then that's super cool. What they more often say will be like, play your favorite song.
Oh, that's the worst question.
What do you do?
I honestly, I hate when people ask that, because I do have my favorite songs. Like, I do have my favorite musicians that I listen to.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure no one wants to listen to Motley Crue right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's times where I'm like, you don't want to hear what I'm listening to right now, so I'll just play you an original. And that's usually what I go for. When people are like, play your favorite song, I'm like, then you're going to get an original.
That's the safe move, I think. That's the opportunity. Because people, they want to be on board with it. So, that the answer to that is never good.
Yeah, it's never
for me.
No. Yeah. How do you go about that? I mean,
I definitely don't play my favorite song.
Yeah.
that's never the answer.
Never. That's true.
Because that's a moving target anyway, and it's usually so far afield. Like, oh, well, I was listening to Guided by Voices on the way here, or Barry Manilow, or XTC, who knows? And you're just going to have no idea. And if you want to discover something, let's give you something that actually, I wrote this. Just here, give it a try.
You know, I do, like, a lot of people don't know this, but I listen to a lot of like 80s rock, hair bands, and even punk. And like I remember one time some dude asked me that question. He goes, "Play me your favorite song." So I played Rage Against the Machine, "Killing in the Name of." And
now in the right room, that's fine.
I actually did it well because the way I do it is I mashed it up with American Woman and Purple Haze because it kind of fits in the same kind of progression. So I kind of eased my way into it, but that's, because I knew right then and there, I'm like, he definitely wasn't expecting Rage Against Machine. And the audience reaction afterwards, that's when I knew. I'm like, I probably should have stick to giving them an original when they asked me that question.
Yeah.
Because if you've listened to the song, you're like, I'm pretty sure it was at a very posh restaurant. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, some of those that work forces, and they're sitting there like, Jesus, So after I was like, yeah. Have you ever gotten a request? And I know you've gotten them. And have you ever? It's just totally wrong. It's completely wrong. Like they're asking you to play the song, and it's by this artist. Either the title or the artist is wrong.
Yeah, and some of that is documented. Some of that you can go on Facebook. You can look at my selection of drunk requests that people have written.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite ones though was this was at Lincross in Bristol. Great room, wonderful people, and it's always so fun to play there. I was doing a Sunday brunch thing there last year, and the best part of that is that the Sunday brunch people, the patrons, they were there to drink.
Yo,
midday Sunday, they're like, let's go.
Yep.
Patriots are coming on, and let's make this thing happen. So I would have this active crowd that was ready to make requests. And this one woman, I had finished a song, and she turns around from the bar and goes, "Hey, play Splish Splashin' Away."
Wait, what?
So
you mean the Beach Boys? Is that the Beach Boys?
You got two songs to choose from.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Beach Boys.
Splish Splash by Bobby Darin, and you got Slip Slidin' Away by Paul Simon.
Okay, yep, okay.
And I went with Paul Simon because it's the one that I know.
Yeah, that's what you usually do.
She was bobbing her head to it, so I feel like I got it right. But I wish she had written it down because that was gold. That was a gem.
This happened to me a couple of nights ago where this woman, she was coming out to me and she was asking me for Bob Seger. But she was sitting she was in front of me and she was kind of a bit away. So I thought she said Bruce Springsteen.
Oh.
So like huge misunderstanding. And I played Born in the USA because I'm like, okay, so she asked for Bruce Springsteen. Let me play Born in the USA. So I mashed it up with Country Girl and that new song by some pop singer, and I mashed it up, and she just doesn't look interested. She has this like straight face, like, this is horrible. So I'm like, all right, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
And that never happens. So then after, she comes up and she goes, "You didn't play Bob Seger." And I go, "I totally did. I played." Now at this time, you could have said Bob Seger, Bruce Springsteen. Now I think they're the same person because whatever. And so I'm like, I just played Born in the USA. She just, and the most straight face, like mood changed completely. She goes, "That's Bruce Springsteen." And I was like, oh shit, you meant, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, Bob Seger. Yeah, my B, I totally didn't hear you. And that was pretty funny for me because that was kind of like, I related it to you in a way, like I thought it was a request. I thought I nailed it, but it was totally just wrong. In my part, it was wrong.
That's a tricky thing though, because the audience, when they request something, sometimes it's an artist that they're really invested in.
Very.
And it's somebody that we might know in sort of a cursory kind of way. Someone asks for Bryan Adams. I'm like, I think I can do Summer of '69, maybe.
Yeah.
But these guys probably saw Bryan Adams at Meadowbrook the year before or something, and they know all the songs. They should be able to rattle them off, but when you ask them, they never can because it's a tricky kind of memory. It's like refrigerator blindness.
It is. And you know what? And you probably get this because you were saying that you play Dave Matthews and you mash it up with something. But when people come up to me and they ask me for a musician like that, that's so he's very complex in my way.
Oh yeah.
With the way his writing is, I mean, he's very improv based. So I just sit there. I'm like, I mean, I can give you my best shot at this musician, but when it comes to Dave Matthews, I'm not the best at playing Dave Matthews because
that's a tough one to fake your way through.
He's a tough one. He is a tough one, and it's like when people ask me to play Fish. Like, I'm like, I mean, I can give you Bathtub Gin, but it's not going to be Bathtub Gin,
Okay. I have a couple suggestions on that one. There are a couple accessible tunes I think you could do.
Oh, yeah.
Fee is not too bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's really not too bad. And
Let's check that one out.
Sample in a Jar.
I know that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Those are the two that I usually go to.
Yep.
Because I also don't want to spend 12 minutes playing a song.
That's the thing.
It's not good for business.
No, it's not. It's tough. I love it when people ask me for Grateful Dead, but at the same time, I'm like, oof. That's why I'll be like, do you got any Grateful Dead fans? And there's like 2 people. I'm like, well, this is going to be a long song for the rest of this room.
Yeah.
I love Grateful Dead. I love Jerry Garcia. God rest his soul. Like, he is an amazing, amazing revolutionary guitar player in my way. But, Bob Weir, him too. But their songs are so, for a non-music lover, they're very in-depth.
Well, that Working Man's Dead record is a good one because those were like Casey Jones. You had those songs that were a little more pop format.
Yep. Was it Driving That Train?
That's the one.
Hi, Uncle Casey Jones, you better. Yeah, I was like, I definitely know that one. Yeah, very straightforward, very ABA kind of format, Yeah, those are good songs, But, when I get like Fire on the Mountain, I'm like, that solo in that song is just going to get... the non-believer.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I wish people were more into those songs because for a musician, I'm like, oh, thank God some Dorian or Mixolydian or like something a little,
right.
something a little bit more challenging than just a 1-4-5. Even though they're chords sometimes on like Fire on the Mountain, that is like a very easy rhythm guitar. But soloing, it's good. It's good for a musician, I think. It teaches you phrases and how to solo on those notes.
Yep.
Do you ever see music nowadays and be like, do you ever see how music today are kind of copying musicians from the past? They're kind of trying to not steal, but like I heard this kid the other day, and he literally stole the exact chord progression from Bill Withers' Lovely Day. And just because of that, I was like, you know what, I gotta go listen to Bill Withers.
Right. It in the industry in general, it feels like they're somehow making something shiny and new out of spare parts.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of repurposing going on. Certainly, in hip hop, that's the nature of the beast.
Yep.
But there's a great artistry to it too. I wouldn't say that it's without value by any means. I love listening to Jurassic 5 and the Beastie Boys and
100%.
There's a bunch of those bands where I really respect how they're putting these things together and them demonstrating how they hear these things and what these things mean. So there's a great art to it, but I'm more likely to gravitate to someone like Ben Folds or somebody who is composing.
Yes.
And still trying to find ways to speak that language in ways that haven't been heard yet.
Yep. That's like there's like 2 musicians that I'm fond of right now are Leon Bridges and Gary Clark Jr.
Okay.
They're 2 guys that they kind of take that foundation that everyone knows of, like they take their inspiration, but they're trying to make something completely new out of it. And that's where I don't see a lot of musicians taking that risk. I just feel like there's not that risk anymore. I feel like they're not taking like, well, maybe like how you were saying, like to make something unique out of that performance. I feel like musicians nowadays aren't taking those risks like Ozzy did, Black Sabbath, Carlos Santana, all these musicians that are, for me, took those risks. Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for the industry because I'm nowhere near it.
Right.
But I don't think there's the opportunity for it anymore. Maybe it used to be a little more outlaw, but
True.
But there's no chances left that anybody can afford to take.
I feel like it has to do with the way things are produced nowadays, and I feel like it's because things are so overly produced. Like there has to be auto tune. There's got to be a beat. There's got to be a click. There's got to be this and that and this and that. That you lose that rawness that you grew up with. That like it's just you hear it and you hear that vulnerability in the artist and everything. And so I feel like when. Like, for example, Jimi Hendrix. When you look at Jimi Hendrix, he completely reshaped rock and roll just from, his Star Spangled Banner song and everything.
Yep.
And I feel like he wouldn't even have a shot nowadays because people are so used to, like, clean auto-tune to the beat, ABA, that hearing something so raw would almost shock people.
Yeah, and certainly if you have a band or a drummer that drifts in tempo.
Yep.
I mean, try to put John Bonham on a grid, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But there's nothing about his drumming that deserves change. I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah, it's like Ringo Starr. You look at Ringo, and it was perfect for exactly what it was.
Yep.
But you could never do that again nowadays because it was just. I don't know, it worked back then and it just worked in that time, and it was flawless, I feel like. But
I recorded a song with Holly and with her sister Heidi and Heidi's wife Paula. The four of us got together and recorded a song for the upcoming Song Fight. I don't know if I've told you about Song Fight. It's an online songwriting competition.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. They give you a song title every week, and you've got to write a song for it. So
that's cool.
They posted the title, I Had It Coming. And we were just like, let's get together and figure out what this song is. And we recorded the bass thing of it live. And I recorded it on Logic on my Mac.
Yep.
But I didn't set a click. I didn't set a tempo. I just grabbed it, and I was like, we're just going to do our overdubs over this. So it has this, I don't want to say amateur, but it's got this unbridled kind of feel to it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know how to, I was going to say an ambiance, but like, nah, it's not even that. It's like not amateur. It's just, I like to use the word vulnerable, because it's like a very vulnerable sound. You know what I mean? Like, White Stripes did it. Their first album was recorded just in Jack White's living room.
Okay.
And that's why it has that very open. Beatles did it all the time. Beatles didn't they record like one song in John Lennon's living room where the staircase was because they liked the reverb of the staircase. So he was like, we're gonna record the whole thing right here.
Yeah.
That's great that you used that. You did that.
Yeah, you can use the tools that we have now to still try to approach truth in sound.
Yeah.
And it's important to put all the bells and whistles aside and just see what you can get, in that way, I think.
I think that's an important thing for musicians to, it's kind of like not forgetting your roots. Like, you never want to forget that stuff. And sometimes people want to hear that more. I've learned that people do want to hear that more. Like the avid music lover, they don't want to hear an overproduced, you know what I mean? They want to hear something that's raw, something that it grabs your attention. And that's what I try to emulate. But at the same time, with radio nowadays, it's hard. There's like a whole science to writing. If you're trying to be on the radio, there's a whole science and to writing a hit for the radio.
Yeah, but the radio has never really been my goal.
Yeah,
it just seemed like it was not part of what I was trying to get to. Yeah, musically, I'm glad that it pays my way for as much as it does. But yeah, that just seems so not part of the business. And any musician, any band that I've listened to any depth, has said the same thing in their lyrics.
Oh, really?
Like "Have a Cigar" by Pink Floyd, or even "Don't Mean Nothing" by who was that? Don't mean nothing till you sign it on the dotted line. Who was that? Richard Marx, of all people. Here's a guy that I wouldn't give the time of day to, but I listened to this song and I'm like, oh yeah, well, the industry's terrible.
Yeah.
So okay, and that in its way makes him human.
Well, radio is dying. That's what I tell people. I think radio is really taking a change nowadays, and I mean, it's crazy how some musicians, they do want, that's their goal. Like, I need to be on the radio. That's what, for a while, that's what my goal was. When I was first starting out, that's what it was. But then it changed because for me, you listen to the radio, and for me, it's like when I auditioned for American Idol. You know, when I auditioned,
Okay.
I mean that was something my mom really wanted me to do. I was young. I was 16. It was right when they changed it, and I was really just going because everyone was telling me you should try it. And when I realized it, I was like, this is not. I learned that it's not what you think it is. You know, and the radio is just not what people think it is. You know, and I think nowadays there's better ways to becoming a musician and to living that dream, just not to be, you know what I mean? Not to get your head wrapped around that one idea, you know. There's the grass is always greener on the better side of life. That's what I like to say, on the other side of the amp or something.
Yeah.
You got to look at it in a different sense.
It's bad enough when economy is imposed on music. When competition is imposed on top of it, it becomes completely worthless.
It is. It's no, and I've watched this interview with Steven Tyler, and he talked about this, and I've said this on past podcasts, how he says like him being a judge on American Idol, he's seen that there's no way in heck that these kids that are going on American Idol are going to be as talented or as educated as that working musician that's been gigging 24/7.
But there are a lot of talented musicians who find their way through those channels.
True.
It's not to say it can't happen.
True. No, it can.
I watched a Justin Bieber documentary, and at the end of it, I was like, well, here's a kid who was born with talent, you know, who really has skills.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Justin Bieber, I will give it to him. He's kind of like, it's like how I say about Bruno Mars. You know, you got to give credit to them, because Bruno Mars, he's one of those guys that, like, even though he's not singing, he's writing a shit ton of music for people. He's writing a lot of music for other people, and he's a genius, and he has a lot of soul and passion in him, just like Justin Bieber. You know, that's raw talent just in itself. He's a drummer, he's singer, dancer, writes his own music, and I mean, was it through YouTube that he got discovered?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, early YouTube videos.
Yeah, just like Taylor Swift and stuff like that, you know? But, I mean, I was talking about this with someone, but, like, if you look at those shows like X Factor, American Idol, I mean, do you know... Yeah, the only singer I know from that show is Kelly Clarkson. That's the only singer I remember.
There was that country guy, Daughtry.
Did he come from American Idol?
He was on one of those shows.
No way.
And Clay Aiken.
No way. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, a few of them have found their way. But, you know, you go back to, I'm showing my age here for sure, but even like Star Search.
Star Search, I've heard of that.
Right. There was a country band called Sawyer Brown who ended up actually getting a contract and becoming pretty popular.
Yeah, wow.
But they're the only ones I can think of from that era that actually went on.
You know what I've always liked about you is that something that you do is that you mainly focus on playing in the northern New Hampshire. Yeah. And it's actually a great thing, because there's not really a lot of music up there, but like there is, but like I feel like that's a great outlet for people and like for yourself, because it's a good opportunity, you know?
I like it up there. Yeah. I think it's a comfortable environment, and you've probably played up there, so you've gotten a taste of it.
People really appreciate the music up there, and that's why
the feel is a little different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a little out of place when I come down to Concord or Manchester. You know, sure. I don't know the rooms as well. I don't know the people quite as well. Yeah. But up north, it's a little more
humble.
Well, it's a little more chaotic, is what I was going to say. They kind of don't know really what to expect from you, and it's not that they're grateful to just get anything as long as you're playing music, but they're willing to go along with you.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, if you go in with some authority over what you're doing, then they'll give it a listen.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I played at rooms up north, and when I was in college, I played a lot of rooms up north, and I loved. Honestly, those are the best places I played at. You know, because when you come down here, like I love playing in Concord and Southern New Hampshire. That's mainly where I'm based out of, and I just think sometimes it's a little overpopulated, the music scene, so that sometimes people just kind of get bored with the good, you know, when there is good entertainment, they don't know what to expect. You know, they just think it's like, oh, it's just another act, you know, like when you go to Hampton Beach, there's bands playing in every restaurant. So what makes your band stick out compared to all the rest?
Yeah, that's a good point. It is easier to stand out up north.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. And I just feel like the audience appreciates it more up there. You know what I mean? Especially in the ski resorts. I love playing in the ski resorts. You played in Waterville a few times, I think?
Yeah, I do a series for Waterville called the Starry Nights, where they put people on chairlifts to the top of the mountain. They ski halfway down and they stop at the Sunnyside Lodge. They have dinner and entertainment, and then they do a torchlight ski the rest of the way down. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
But the complication is that they've got to get me and my gear halfway up the mountain. So, I'm hanging onto a guitar and an amp and a backpack, and I'm on the back of a snowmobile going up the mountain to the lodge. And then I just set up real quick, play for them, and then they get everybody down off the mountain, and then they bring me back down.
Yeah.
So that's always a funny commute.
Wow.
To get to the job. You're like, well, yeah, okay, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't ski. I don't have any skills there. My winter sport is the internet. That's what I do. But it's a fun gig, though.
Yeah.
It's a weird environment, but it's cool.
Because one thing I loved about ski resorts is, I've learned that doing ski resorts is that kids are brutally honest, and sometimes kids are the best audience for when you're playing live.
Yeah.
Because when the kids are interested in the music, the parents are interested in the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I had a kid once, the first time I played at Waterville Valley, I'll never forget. This kid came up to me and literally goes, "You suck." Because I was playing and it was to my attention. I was playing a lot of female artists, which it didn't come to my knowledge, but that was just on the radio. So that's what I did.
Sure.
I played the top hits, and he goes, "You suck." And this kid was like 5 years old, and the mom was like, "He didn't mean that." I go, "No, he surely meant that."
Probably did.
He probably did. So I went there and I changed my whole setup, my whole set list, and I crushed it. And then I ended up seeing that kid again with his family months and later, and he saw me again, and he was like, "Weren't you that guy I saw a while back?" God. And then I was like, "You were." I was, and he goes, You're good now. And I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
I'm literally trying to impress a 5-year-old now with my music.
Right.
But they all loved it. They ended up following my music on YouTube and Facebook, so they're good fans now, believe it or not.
No,
so,
right on.
Yeah, it worked out for me. So
I remember this one time I was playing at the Margate, which is down in Laconia. It's a beach bar right by the lake. Beautiful. I usually get a pretty good sunburn every summer playing for them.
It's fun.
But I'm standing there and I'm playing the guitar because there's no room for a piano.
Yep.
And I'm playing a song, and this kid comes up, and okay, they're vacationers. They're probably from out of town, probably from out of state.
Yep.
They might be a little bit entitled. It kind of goes with the territory. But this kid sees me playing, comes up, stands. He's looking at me, but he puts his hands behind his back and he waits. And I'm like, I like this kid already. He gets it.
He gets it.
He understands what's going on here, and that's rare.
Yeah.
So I finish my song, and immediately I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And he says, "Can I get a menu?"
Oh.
So I got him one.
Oh, are you kidding me?
What can you do?
Oh, I've had people ask me for the bathroom before.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's so funny.
I know. I felt so good for a minute.
Yo, you want to know, have you ever had this happen to you? I once was playing a show, and it was at this restaurant, and there's this guy at the bar, and I'm playing it, and he's looking at me. And he's far away, so I can't really see his eyes, but I could tell he's looking at me, and he's digging it, He's really, and he's like, he's clapping, he's doing this at some points. I'm like, wow, this guy really likes me. And I acknowledge him, and I'm like, hey man, you've been really enjoying the show. What would you want to hear next? And he goes, how about you turn down so I can finish a game that's playing above your head?
Right.
And I was like,
the TV.
Right. And then I look up and there's a Bruins game going on. I'm like, yep, that would happen to me. And actually, there's been gigs where I walk up and I shut the TV off, because that's like, I don't know if that happens with you, but some places give you that authority.
Yeah, that should never be in the musician's hands. They should do that for you.
Yeah, no, but like there's this, it was Shorties, and they were like, hey, like you've been playing, I was playing there for 4 years, and that was like a thing they do. They'd shut the music off behind the musician's head, and they were just like, you can get your own water. So they taught me how to, use that thing, and they shut the TV off, and I never did it. I did it like 2 or 3 times, and then the third time I stopped because I shut the game off. I didn't think anything of it. It was just like, I'm just getting ready. I shut the TV off, and this guy, like, I can't say what he said. Right. But I turned that TV right back on right after. I'm like, yep, sorry, my mistake, Yeah,
you don't want to be between the patrons and the staff when it comes to that.
No,
but
I don't.
The staff should have your back in that way because they hired you to come in and do a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, some rooms are like, we just got to keep these people happy. We just got to keep people in their seats. But some rooms are like, no, it's time for this now, and we're switching over. And there are different mindsets about that.
100%.
And I don't mind it if the game is on. Really, the bigger problem for me is that sometimes I'll space out and watch the game.
That happens with me.
And I'm like, oh, I'm on the third verse of American Pie. I totally forgot where I am.
Yep. When there's a big TV in front of you and you're like, and all of a sudden you're playing, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh dang it. I was just playing, that song. Yeah, that's happened to me. It's happened to me.
And then I'll lose track of what songs I've played that night. Because I never go in with a set list. Do you bring a prepared list?
I used to when I first started, but I stopped just because people would be like, hey, can you play me this song? It would just throw me off. And I ended up playing the same song 3 times in a row. And I'm like, oh shit. So...
What I've started doing at some of my shows, I can't do it in every room, but the ones where I get good crowd response, it's a lot of fun. I'll do an A to Z show where I'm like,
I've seen you do that. You inspired me to do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or the themed shows.
Right.
I love how you do your theme shows. Like, you're like 80s night, or like we're doing Nothing But Billy Joel, or like stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God, that's great.
And broadcasting from home, it's just like all bets are off.
Yeah.
Just not going to do whatever I want.
Yeah. I actually did that when I was doing live. I saw you do the A through Z or something like that on live, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do something like that with my live shows. So I did for a week straight. I had one day be 80s night, the next night was alternative rock, another day was just pop, top hits, country. I think that's really good for musicians to do because it keeps us on our toes.
I have a couple coming up because I've got a good friend and fellow musician named Chicken Willie.
That's an awesome name.
Yeah, good bass player.
Yeah, he would be.
And he keeps requesting these theme nights. He's always got really cool ideas. So he wanted to hear songs that were written by Bernie Taupin, the guy who wrote for Elton John.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
But upon investigating it, he wrote a bunch of stuff for a bunch of people. He wrote a bunch of songs for Rod Stewart. He wrote We Built This City for Starship. We built this city on rock and roll.
Really?
Yeah, that was Bernie Taupin. I mean, what a fumble. But probably put his kids through college or something. It was a huge hit. He wrote a few songs on that Starship album. So that'll be an unexpected and weird theme to play. And he just messaged me. He says he wants to hear a theme night of songs by the Rat Pack.
Oh, I love the Rat Pack.
I know. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be so much fun.
I'm just starting to work on that now.
Hey, if you need a Dean, I could do a killer Dean impersonation.
Oh, maybe we can do a double feature.
That'd be fun.
We arrange it so you do the first hour, I do the second hour.
I'd even
we
dress
switch
up.
off.
I'd have the rose and the glass of scotch and a cigar. Not lit, of course.
Look out, Chicken Willie. This one's getting big.
I could do even Big Cosby. I love doing all that stuff. Oh my God, me and Christina, we're so quirky. We're the only couple, I swear, that we listen to like Mr. Sandman and stuff like that. Still in the car. We'll go on car rides and we're like bum 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 bum, and you're like Mac the Knife and like, or just like crazy things from the Rat Pack and we'll go to Frankie Valley and everything.
Are you watching the TV show? I think it's on Amazon, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Have you seen that?
I've seen it. I have to watch it.
Yeah, I've only started watching it.
Is it good?
It's good, but you'll like the music.
Okay.
Because it's right in that setting. You'll dig it.
Yeah. That's why I liked what's it called? Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. I love mafia movies. I love that time era so much, and that music was so great. The big bands and swing and everything, and I mean it like we were talking about earlier. It's history, and it shows we still use that stuff in music today. Like when you look at Tedeschi Trucks Band, they're one of my favorite bands.
Oh yeah.
They emulate that big band just in Southern rock, which is so crazy to think about, because they have 8 horn players, and then they have 2 drummers, and then they have 3 guitars, a piano player. Well, their piano player, rest in peace, but like they emulate that, and it's crazy because when you see big bands and genres, that's the way I look at it. I'm like, oh wow, big bands still do exist. Just now they're country, now they're blues, now they're rock, they're this or that, they're that.
No matter how famous a band like that is, you got to know they're making no money.
With the amount of players.
Yeah. Like Santana.
Yeah.
It's just like, how do you pay
true.
it?
Oh my God.
How do you
that's
do
so
it?
True. That's
it would be so
true.
much fun. And psychic capital is worth a lot.
You want to know why? It's because their CDs are worth like $40-$50. Like Tedeschi Trucks, they released this like special edition album, and it was like $50, and I was so close to buying it, but I'm like, why am I spending $50 on a CD?
Yeah,
because it was
that
like
hurts.
it was a DVD, CD, book, and that's how they make. They're Berkeley kids, so they make their money.
Oh, all right.
Did you know that Susan Tedeschi's from Boston?
I did not.
Do you know Tedeschi Stores?
Well, yeah. That's the family? Wow.
Yep, there's one right in Plymouth too. Yeah, I went in there with a big smile after I learned that.
There's a musical connection to the ownership of Tedeschi Stores.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a tour waiting to happen. Why aren't we gigging in those places?
They should do that.
I bet there's a way to do that.
They should totally do that. When I discovered that, I was like, "Wait, you got to be shitting me!" But it makes sense.
I mean, I'm not in a hurry to play a convenience store.
No, but
there's that's a weird thing. It's an
like
interesting opportunity.
Dave Grohl, he also owns his own restaurant chain or something like that in California.
Oh yeah,
and he has some in Nashville and shit like that, and they're like themed after like rock and everything, and like he has local musicians play there, and like you can get big there. Like I guess the one in California, he goes there all the time, and he still plays there. So like I always thought that was super interesting how like some musicians, they're known for things you just wouldn't expect. You know, like Tedeschi. You know, like I did not know that. You know, and I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. It is cool. Honestly, I think this is a good time to wrap up. We've honestly been doing this for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, what is it, like midnight?
Jim, it was a great time having you on here.
Let's do it again sometime. There's still plenty to talk about.
Oh my God, I have so much more to talk about. I would really like to have you on for next month or something like that, and I'll shoot you some dates. But
stay in touch. The world's not going to come back to normal for a long time, so I got time.
Yeah, me too, all the time, especially during this time. Why don't you tell the people what you got upcoming, any CDs or anywhere they can find you, any gigs, anything like that?
Let's see. I am working on recording another record. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but it's a home effort, and it's coming along. So you'll just have to keep an eye on my Facebook page, because that's where the action is for now.
That's awesome.
I am slowly entering into the solo show scene again.
Good.
In July, but everything is weather dependent because everything is outside. So, again, keep an eye on Facebook and you'll see where I'm playing. But right now, I think it's the 18th or 19th. If you look on the Tupelo Music Hall's website, Dueling Pianos is coming back. So that's the next big show. There will be another one in November, and we're anticipating that one can be back indoors.
That's awesome.
And
go check them out. That's great.
I mean, the Tupelo obviously has a great series anyway. There's a bunch of good shows down there.
Yeah.
But, otherwise, just on a sunny day, keep an eye out on the streets of Plymouth. You might see me with a guitar or a piano.
And trust me, and if you see the open mics happening in Cover Bridge or wherever Jim Tyrell's doing an open mic, go to those open mics. Support not only local musicians, but your local venues and restaurants, because it's a great time. And Cover Bridge, they have amazing food, and the owner is a sweetheart, and the staff is awesome.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. So go check it out, guys. Jim, I hope it was great to have you on here. Really,
it's good to catch up with you again.
It was great.
Kind of like you were saying earlier, we would never see each other if we didn't do stuff like this, because we're always playing two different places.
You're always playing, and I'm always playing, and I'm always gigging. I always try to make it to your open mics at Cover Bridge, and it's always a blast every time. And I always see familiar faces there. That's the best part.
Right.
I see like professors or anything, and it's just great. It's a flashback for sure.
Come on back up when you can. We'd love to have you.
Anytime, man. Guys, take it easy, and feel free to like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Go check out Jim and his dueling pianos and stuff like that. And have a great one, guys. Take it easy. Well, I'm bored as shit, got nothing to do during this quarantine time. So I might as well make a video or post something on YouTube. So it's my podcast,